Hi guys, Miguel from Black Flag Summit Club here. Up until now I've been using an MSR Pocket Rocket for all of my camping adventures. Our friends at Jetboil just recently sent us a Jetboil stash, and I'm sure like many of you guys, I was curious about what the performance differences are between them. So I thought we'd do a quick comparison and just show you guys differences in weight, differences in time, and we're going to do some different combinations between the two, both comparing the pots themselves and then of course the burner system, and see which one boils water the fastest. We're going to try to keep it as scientific as we can. Got a thermometer that we're going to use to figure out when it's actually reaching boiling at 100 Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit. And then we're also going to be measuring out the water. All the water is going to come from the same batch at the same temperature, and I'll tell you what that temperature is. And then once we do the first batch of water, we'll weigh that and make sure that for all the subsequent runs that we keep the same weight of water. Okay, so let's get started by figuring out what the weight is of these different systems. So this is a, like I said, titanium pot with an MSR Pocket Rocket. So 242 grams, which is 8.5 ounces. And then bringing in the stash, looks like it's 8.2 ounces or 234 grams. So a little bit lighter there. We'll start off with the MSR, just to get a baseline for what I've been using. Alright, let's get a baseline temperature for the water to see where we're starting out at. Just wait for it to stabilize here. Looks like about 51 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 10.5 degrees Celsius. And we're going to measure 500 milliliters into this pot, which is about the max capacity for this particular pot. And we did this earlier and it was about 495 grams. So we'll keep going until we get to there. Let's throw this on the stove. And as soon as we get this started, we'll start the stopwatch. Stove's on high here. There's just a slight breeze out here, not too bad, but there is just a little bit of a breeze. just about there, 98. Got a little bit of a rolling boil. And 100. So we stopped it at 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Alright, let's reset for the next combination. Alright, now we're going to try the Jetboil pot with the MSR Pocket Rocket stove. Put that aside for later. And zero this out here. And we'll measure the same amount. So 495 grams of water, 500 milliliters about. Let's reset our stopwatch, and just like the before, right as soon as we get it started, we'll get the stopwatch started. Notice that the Jetboil stash is just a little bit wider, so that might help it give it a little bit more surface area on the bottom. See here the comparison on the size of the two pots. This one is maxed out at about 500 milliliters. The Jetboil stash puts more water in it. We're coming up to a minute and 30 like before. I think my old pot was at about 50 degrees Celsius, and you can see we're at 83 here with the Jetboil stash. See some boiling starting at the bottom here. 96, 97, 98, 99. All right, 100. So it's at a minute 58. So again, that was with the Jetboil stash pot on the MSR Pocket Rocket. And so what we're doing is we've got two different stoves, two different pots, and we wanted to see, you know, what portion of the difference in time for getting your 500 milliliters of water to boil was attributed to the pot design and what was attributed to the actual stove design. So now let's switch over to the Jetboil stash stove, and we'll again try the same two pots, again starting with my titanium pot here, which is made by Toaks, and then finally ending up with the Jetboil stash pot on the Jetboil stash stove. Okay. So the Jetboil stash comes also with a stabilizer, which is nice. So that'll stabilize our can here. And then the stove itself folds up and nice, just rotating. So you just unfold them out by twisting them out. Okay, and once again, we'll measure out the same 500 milliliters of water here. Okay, so we got 500 milliliters of water, same set, measured out here in my titanium pot from before. We'll put that onto the stash stove and get this started, and then we'll start the stopwatch just as before. Okay, so I have it all the way turned up. We're just creeping up on 35 degrees Celsius, and there's a minute 30 right there, so 36 degrees Celsius. It was something that I was wondering about, the difference in materials of the pots. I know that they use titanium shims sometimes in high-performance car brake systems to help keep the heat transfer from going from the brake pads to the brake fluid. So I was wondering how it would affect the boiling performance. And it does seem to have a correlation to being slower in heating up the water in the titanium pot. Halfway there at 50 degrees at 2 minutes and 30 seconds here. Okay, so we're at 3 minutes and 30 seconds here, and still just rounding 65, 66 degrees Celsius. So this seems to be the slowest combination so far. Okay, 4 minutes and 30 seconds now at 80 degrees Celsius. And we're just now starting to get the little micro bubbles in the water that usually signify boiling's getting close. Not there, but close. Okay, just getting up to 5 minutes and 30 seconds now. It looks like we're at about 92 degrees at 5:30. We got some bubbles starting in the bottom, a little bit of boiling. Haven't quite gotten to a boiling point, rolling boil here yet. Getting close here. 99. tick over here. Alright, I'm going to call it at 100 there. It's at a rolling boil, and that's right at 6:30. Okay, so that was 6 minutes and 30 seconds to boil it using the Jetboil Stash stove and the Toaks Titanium pot that I usually use. So now for the last combination, we're going to use the Jetboil pot with the Jetboil Stash stove, and again 500 milliliters. If you notice on the bottom of this pot, there's a integrated radiator that helps to transfer heat from the flame into the pot and therefore into your water. And then here on the stove itself, you'll see that there's a little channel that is in the stop of the stove that mates up with the pot so that it holds it on there nicely. All right, so let's measure up this water and get started. Okay, let's get this started here. Once again, we'll turn it all the way up and put it on, start our timer. Once again, you can tell already, we're just at a minute here, but we're already way above the temperature that we had at a minute 30 in the titanium pot. So the titanium pot is definitely slowing down the boil, and this Jetboil pot with the integrated kind of radiator at the bottom is definitely helping speed up the boiling process. Right there, we're at about a minute 30, and we're at 55 degrees Celsius in comparison with this Jetboil Stash. Okay, we are coming up on 2 minutes and 30 seconds here, and we're we're about 2:15. So that's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and we're at 82 degrees already. Just getting to 3 minutes, and we're at 93 degrees already, so coming up close to being done here. Got a little bit of a boil happening at the bottom of the pot. Just wait for the rest of it to get up to 100 degrees here. 99. Now we're at 100 at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, so I've measured out 500 milliliters, again about 495 grams worth of water, and this is with the Toaks Titanium pot on the MSR Pocket Rocket stove. So let's get it started here. All the way up, and we'll start our timer as we put it on. But it's not quite to 100 here. Just let it get to a rolling boil here. Alright, we'll call it there, 99.9 at 424. Okay, so here we're going to test the combination of the MSR stove, the Pocket Rocket stove, with the Jetboil Stash pot. Again, 500 milliliters of water, same temperature as before. And we'll turn it all the way up to high. Coming up on 1:30 here, just crossed 1:20, and you can see here that we're already at 70 degrees. Okay, 75 degrees as we cross 1:30. Got the little micro bubbles forming, no boiling yet. At 1:45. Okay, we got some boiling starting at the bottom, but we haven't quite gotten to a rolling boil yet. That's at 2 minutes. Okay, that was 100 degrees at 2 minutes and 15 seconds for the combination of the Jetboil Stash with the MSR Pocket Rocket stove. Okay, so we just wrapped up our testing. We actually were so surprised by the first two numbers with the Jetboil Stash pot and the Toaks on the MSR stove, and so we actually redid those tests again. So we did those twice just to see if they were actually valid test points or if something weird was going on. The times were similar, but they were slightly different. And so I think the time difference we can attribute to both the fact that as we did each test, the amount of fuel that was in the can went down. And in addition, as the fuel leaves the can, there's a thermodynamic process that happens where it actually cools down and makes it even slower to come out. So that was also possibly affecting some of the tests. But there was some definite results out of this. So after that testing, what we can definitely say is that the Stash pot is a superior design. It is all aluminum. I think the aluminum helps with the heat transfer. The radiator, again, greatly increases the surface area for the transfer of heat from the flame into the pot and then into the water, versus the titanium pot, which I think the material itself is actually resisting the conductivity of the heat to go through it. In addition, the stoves, the MSR stove, I weighed the stove just by itself. That was 74 grams. The Pocket the Jetboil stash stove itself was 58 grams, so lighter there. My two systems, the system I used to use with Toaks Titanium pot and MSR Pocket Rocket, that weighed in, like I said before, at 242 grams or 8.5 ounces. And the Jetboil stash, that system came in at a lighter 234 grams or 8.2 ounces. So winnings there as well. The lid, which we haven't really talked about or used so far, the Jetboil comes with this lid with an integrated sip spout, which could be useful if you're trying to drink directly from the Jetboil. The pot that I used before just had a simple lid that you had to it was actually kind of hard to use because it would get hot and you had to just kind of grab it real quick and yank it off. Another benefit that I see for the Jetboil stash is that the whole system fits inside of the pot. This fuel canister is one of the larger fuel canisters, so it itself will not fit inside the pot with the rest of the system inside of it. But if you get the half-size cans, that can plus the system is meant to fit in here and close all up, which would be a nice compact package to be putting inside of your backpack and taking into the woods with you. Okay, so just to recap all of the different combinations that we tested out, we started out with the MSR Pocket Rocket and the Toaks pot. We did this test twice. The first attempt, we boiled the water, again 500 milliliters at 3 minutes and 51 seconds. The second time we ran the test, after running through a full round of the combinations, the same combination here boiled the water at 4 minutes and 25 seconds. So a little bit longer the second time around. Next we did the MSR stove with the Jetboil pot. And the first attempt on this combination, we got 1 minute and 58 seconds to boil. And again, after we went all the way through the round, the second attempt, that same combination boiled the same 500 milliliters in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So still very fast. After that combination, then we did the Jetboil stove with the Toaks pot. And so this combination was the slowest combination by far, coming in at 6 minutes and 30 seconds to boil the 500 milliliters. And then finally we did the Jetboil stash stove with the Jetboil stash pot, and that came in at 3 minutes and 31 seconds. So after all that testing, what can we say? We can say that in this case the upgrade is definitely worth it. I think that the Jetboil is now going to be taking the place of my previous system. It'll pack nicely, it's light, it heats up real fast, and it's going to satisfy my needs. So thanks a lot, Jetboil, for sending this over. Hopefully this test will help other people in evaluating what you want to do. Alright guys, well, we'll see you in the next video, but see you outside.